All right, so we're meant to find all of the attributes of this rational function. What would you like me to do first? So in order to find the whole, what do you need to do? You need to factor it. So we need to put this in factored form. How do we factor the numerator? Because the denominator is already factored. It's just x minus 4. All we need to factor is that numerator. What do? Yeah, so anytime we're confused on factoring, we can organize our thoughts, help ourselves by drawing a big X. What goes in the top of the X? A times C, which is 24, and then what goes in the bottom? Negative 11. What multiplies to be 24 but adds to be negative 11? Negative 8 and negative 3. Are these our true factors? No, they are not. Why not? Because we have an A value, right? So what is our A value? 2. So I need to take these two values and divide by 2. So what is our first factor? Negative 4. And what's our second factor? What do I do with that 2? You kick it to the front of the X, and the numerator stays behind the X. Now this is over, I don't know what's going on here. So that factored form is actually over x minus 4. Now what do you notice about our factored form? We have like values between the numerator and denominator. We can cancel them. Now what does canceling do? It creates a whole. So now let's go ahead and finish finding that removable discontinuity. What is the x value of our whole? Yeah, we take the factor we canceled out, x minus 4, and find its 0. Find the value setting equal to 0, meaning our x value is 4. What else do we need to find for the whole? You need to find the y value. How do you go about finding the y value? You plug in 4 for x where? In what equation? The new equation, the simplified factored form. Why don't we plug it into the original? Yeah. That's not why we don't, why we can't. Think about it. A whole is an undefined moment on the graph. Is it going to have a defined y value? No. So before we take out the whole, plugging in 4, the whole's y value or x value is not going to work. It's going to tell us error in the calculator. So instead, we plug 4 into the simplified factored form. So we have 2 times 4 minus 3. And what do we get? So what is our coordinate point for this whole? Now what do you want me to find? What else? What other key attributes should we be finding? The x-intercepts, what else? The asymptotes, okay. So why don't we go ahead and find our vertical asymptote. How do we do that? This is where a lot of people went wrong. The vertical asymptotes are found by the zeros of the denominator. Are there any zeros left in the denominator after we remove our whole? Is there a denominator at all? What does this mean? None. Because there is no variable in denom. Horizontal asymptote now. How do we find the horizontal asymptote? We need to use Bobo Bots eats DC. Which one do we have in this problem? Bigger on top, bigger on bottom, or are they the same? Bots, bigger on top. What does that S stand for? Slant. How do you find a slant asymptote? You divide the numerator by the denominator. What can we use in this problem to divide these? Do we have to use long division? What can we use actually in this problem? Because we just have x minus 4, a plain x and a number. How can we divide? The other way. What's the other way? Synthetic. We can use synthetic because we're just dividing by an x and a number. But remember, we don't ever divide by the factor, we divide by the 0. So what is the 0 for x minus 4? A positive 4. And then you just write down the coefficients of the numerator, 2, negative 11, 12. Bring down the 2. 4 times 2 is 8. Negative 11 plus 8 is how much? Four times negative 3 is negative 12. We have no remainder. What is our slant asymptote? 2x minus 3. And last but not least, what else do we need to find? The x and y intercepts. How do we find the x-intercept? The zeros of the numerator. So we set the zeros of the numerator, or we find the zeros of the numerator by taking the factor in the numerator and setting equal to 0. Add 3 over, divide by 2. Our x-intercept's x value is 3/2. So that means our x-intercept is 3/2, comma 0. How do we find the y-intercept? Running out of colors here. What should I do? How do we find the y-intercept? Yes, plug in everything to 0, which in the end, it's dividing the what? If I plug in everything for 0, you can either, this is the only one that you can either use the factored form or the original. It won't matter. So once we plug in 0, what are we left with? What are we dividing? You divide the constants. So we have 12 over negative 4 or negative 3. And we're done. These are the 5 things I wanted from you. The vertical asymptote, which is none. The horizontal asymptote, which is y equals 2x minus 3. The whole, which is 4 comma 5. the x-intercept, which is 3/2, 0, and the y-intercept, which is 0, -3. Any questions on this problem?